Hello and welcome to Chess Please. Here are 8 checkmating patterns and the food they remind me of. Let's jump in. Starting pretty simple with a ladder mate. This is everybody's basics, your bread and butter. Very comforting, very easy, very quick to prepare, and for that reason, this reminds me of a grilled cheese. I just think it's nice, easy, simple, always good. Grilled cheese. Next up we have something a little bit more intricate but still simple enough, and that is the king rook endmate. It goes a little something like this, and what the king rook endgame reminds me of is actually steak, where you've just got one big piece doing most of the work. It does take a little bit of skill to pull off, but you can get the hang of it pretty easily, and it's still pretty delicious. Rook king, that's a steak. Next up we have everybody's favourite mate, which is the smothered mate, which is where you entomb the king in his own back rank like this, and a lovely little checkmate with the knight. For me, this is a burrito, kind of for obvious reasons. The king will feel like the contents of a burrito being locked in a warm wrap, and you will feel the warmth and comfort of eating a delicious burrito if you can deliver a smothered mate. That's a burrito. So next up we have a dovetail mate, which has certain elements of smothering or burrito-like checkmating, but it's basically where the queen comes in, checkmates the king, generally because the two diagonal escape squares that the king might have gotten to are blocked by its own pieces, and the queen can deliver a nice wrapped up checkmate in here. It's not quite fully a burrito, but this one is actually more kind of like spanakopita, if you're a fan of Greek food. That kind of three-pointed closing in, that's a spanakopita, and that's a dovetail mate. So the next mate we have is the Arabian mate, and the Arabian mate is designed where you have the knight and the rook just closing the king in any which way they can, but generally where you have the knight supporting the rook and just closing off all of the squares, and the knight supporting the rook there as well. Now this is the Arabian mate. I was like, oh, should I give it an Arabian like food from that kind of region? But to be honest, it kind of reminds me the knight and the rook working together like this. Two heavyweight players in their own right, but maybe don't pair up as often as they should. So I'm going to give it the poutine, the cheesy chips dish from Canada. Absolutely delicious, very, very gorgeous, and maybe a little bit rarer than it should be. That's the Arabian mate, that's poutine. Next up we have the lobster pincer mate, and this is the first mate that actually has food in its name. And I mean, I guess it should be like crab claws or lobster or whatever, because it's named after this sort of like lobster pincer attack where the queen comes in right in the king's grill and it's all over for the king. But honestly, this one is kind of more fish and chips. This is giving me fish and chips. Again, just two nice, simple to prepare, very common one, but absolutely class whenever you get it. Fish and chips, it's done, it's in the books. So the next one that I'll be talking about doesn't really have like a distinct name. It's kind of just like a multi-piece mate where you have like several pieces in the attack, generally not the queen, so like the rook, the bishop, and the knight, all pairing together to make this gorgeous mate here where the king has no escape squares. Anything with like more than three pieces, that always reminds me of paella, where you just have this wonderful symphony of different flavors in the one pan, and it all comes together to make something absolutely wonderful. So anytime you have a ton of pieces involved in closing off the king squares, that's a paella for me, absolutely. And our last one is one of the trickiest mates to prepare, and certainly takes a good degree of mastery and time to prepare, and that is the Knight+Bishop checkmate. Not for the faint-hearted, very difficult to pin down, particularly under any kind of time pressure. And that is why I'm going to give it a sushi sort of feeling, because of that kind of mastery required to put it on the plate. And general just fanciness. It's very intricate. It can go wrong pretty easily. So yeah, knight and bishop checkmate, that's sushi. And those are 8 checkmating patterns and the food they remind me of. Hopefully they've made you a little bit hungry and maybe shown you some checkmating patterns you weren't aware of. If you enjoyed this, feel free to stick around for some more chess content, and subscribe and like the video. All the best. Have a good one.